frequently. Please.
Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us, my friends. We are excited about this week's episode. We've got some important Kentucky news stories coming at you. Attorney General Russell Coleman proves a broken clock is indeed correct twice a day. Also, with Juneteenth coming to us on Friday, Governor Beshear leans in and leads on highlighting the importance of Black history, the fight against slavery. While Kentucky GOP trip over themselves to use race to divide us and to mobilize their base. It's going to be a long 5 months, folks. We got a couple quick hit stories we want to bring you as well, checking in on whether former Governor Matt Bevin is in jail yet and whether former sentient human Mitch McConnell is still with us. So we'll get those important updates. Most importantly, we're thrilled to be joined by former Democratic State House candidate for the 88th District. Maybe not former, current candidate. I don't. This is the 88th District, which is some of Fayette, some of Scott County. This is the seat once held by Sherilyn Stevenson, flipped by the GOP with Vanessa Grossel last election. Now maybe uncontested. I don't know. We are going to get an update on what the heck is going on in the 88th. With Alisha Chaffin, who is the Democratic candidate for that seat. If you get the Lexington Herald Leader, you'll see dueling op-eds recently about that race. So we're going to check in and get the update. So should be a good show. We'll see what happens. No promises, right? Get what you pay for, though. But before we get into it, let's go ahead and check in with our co-host. Who are you? Where are you? Who's on your biting list? I'm Aaron, coming to you from the wilds of Childsburg. Lovely deed restricted community. You'll be able to see me right before we get to the urban growth boundary. It's the sea of vinyl siding. And I'm going to put my biting list, Jamie Comer. We don't talk a lot about Jamie Comer on this show. We tend to focus on those politicians right here in the Bluegrass. But we got a reason to put him on the biting list. So we're going to bring that to you later. All right, Nate, you here?
I'm here. Hey, Aaron, and hey, our wonderful listeners and viewers. This is Nate Orshan coming live and direct from Kit and Mai's house here in South Frankfurt. It's a stone's throw from the governor's mansion. And I was going to do Comer for my biting list. Not the least of which is that he's my congressman due to some just tortured gerrymandering that got him in there. But I guess I'll venture out and say that if I get rabies, I am going to be biting on Garland Barr because he's just so evil and sucking up to Trump left, right, and center. You will be talking about him in a little bit too. Truly my introduction to Kentucky politics 8 years ago was knocking on doors for Amy McGrath against, you guessed it, Mr. Barr. For me, it's very personal. I would, if I got rabies, I'm finding him ASAP.
Nice. Yeah. So, obviously people were just, we're having fun here.
No one's hurt.
Getting rabies.
We love Tyler Childers.
That's the story, right?
Yes.
If you haven't heard the song, you need to listen to it. I was trying to convince our producers we could actually play some of the song. I think there's, we can get away with 5 or 6 seconds without.
Right.
But yeah, that's a technical challenge we have not been able to overcome just yet. So just go look it up. It's on the interwebs. You can listen to it. It's a great song, a lot of fun. No one's really going to bite Jamie Comer, yuck, or
no.
Garland Hale, bootlicker Bar.
Yes. So, well, we can quote the chorus, which goes, to put it plain, I just don't like you. Not a thing about the way you is. But if there ever comes a time I got the rabies, you're high on my biting list.
There it is. Yes. That's the rationale, people.
That's
all right.
it.
So here's the thing about Tyler, and I feel like you and I haven't talked about him because we've been on the show together for a minute.
Oh yeah.
He has recently been inducted into the Railbird Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's awesome.
So and that's cool. Rocky came to Railbird and like inducted him. I just have a question, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, Nate. Should Railbird have a Hall of Fame?
I'm right. I know. Well, and should FIFA be giving out like their own version of the Nobel Peace Prize? I mean, where does it end, people? Where does it end?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at any of these kind of like award ceremonies and that kind of stuff, I mean, they're all essentially blatant commercial ventures that are ginned up to try to get some publicity for the thing that they're pushing, and So in that spirit, why not? Why not?
Well,
we could have the Burl. Hey, the Burl Hall of Fame.
We have been around longer than Railbird, I'm pretty sure. So maybe like Kernels of Truth needs to have a Hall of Fame.
Oh man! Well, some of our guests would qualify just because they've been on, often enough that Hall of Famers. But yeah, we'll have to put our thinking cap on about that one.
Absolutely. All right. So what we're going to do right now, guys, really important. We are, I believe we are 148 days away from the midterm elections. November 3rd is coming quick. And in those 148 days, we've got our work cut out for us. Nate just referred to kind of his Kentucky political origin story, which is the same as my Kentucky political origin story. So we were both very involved in the 2018 House race between Amy McGrath and that same bootlicker bar. So that's, that was an important race. It was formative for a lot of people. It was the first time the district, in a minute had been like really contested. It came to be a very, very close race. We ultimately lost that. The folks who were, forces of Amy McGrath, Mom Marine, we came within 10,000 votes, though. So 3-ish percentage points of flipping that seat in the first Trump midterm. And in the next, in these days that we have, very important that we implement a strategy that Progress Kentucky is embracing, which is getting more voters into the election, right? So there's a whole slate of voters that do not turn out in midterm elections. They only kind of clue in when it's Trump versus Biden or Trump versus Kamala. So really important that we connect with those folks who often don't have a lot of interest in politics. They're not like you and I. They're probably not hunting down Kentucky political news conversation online right now. So not our current viewers. But what we can do is have conversations with those people, get engaged with them. We're doing handwritten postcards. We've mentioned this before. We're now, because we are in a relatively short timeline, we are doing twice a month postcarding events. So yeah, join us, please. The next one is coming up. We're going to be at Wise Bird Cider in the Distillery District on Tuesday, June 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. We've got a link. It's a mobilized link. You can find out all the details of those postcarding events, but we're proud to be doing this with Bluegrass Activist Alliance, with Peaceful Bluegrass Resistance. But yeah, hit that mobilized link, fill out the details there. Let us know you want to come. We would love to see you on Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. If you're in the Lexington area or willing to come to the Lexington area. So yeah, please join us. Really important. We've got a universe of 20,000 voters. If we engage usefully with those 20,000 voters, we absolutely could be the thing that swings an election. And really important that we fight as hard as possible for this open seat, right? Open seat makes it a little bit of a different dynamic than when it was, the incumbent bootlicker bar versus the insurgent Amy McGrath. So, you've been out, Nate. I've seen you at those events. You show up. You do the postcards.
They are so much. I tell you what. So not only do you get the good feeling from, doing something positive and actually like writing to people that, who knows, maybe my postcard could be the one that pushes it over the edge, but you meet the coolest people because they're all just like you. They all, are sick and tired of just what's been going on and they want to make a difference. And so invariably you will meet just the coolest folks. And bonus, good cider.
So important. Yeah,
So
I think the
important.
cider is really important. People join
yeah.
us.
Oh yeah.
And Wisebird's super thrilled to have us, which I'm very excited about. And so should be a fun evening for sure.
Oh yeah.
So come on out. All right. Now let's I think we should probably do news of the week, huh?
Do. Yep. That sounds like a good idea. So let's see. What do we have here? Oh. Where did I just?
Yeah, you got it.
There
right?
we got it. I'm like clicking on things left, right, and center here. There we go. Dueling laws. So what we're talking about now is fresh out of Kentucky Lantern. Just came out today. And basically what's going on is last week, the state was sued by a group called Coalition for Fair Markets. And what it's all about is they're saying that this new tax, this excise tax of 14.25% that the legislature passed this year on prediction markets, they're saying it's unconstitutional and discriminatory. So what's going on with that? Well, it turns out that we already tax the gambling industry and horse racing and stuff, but oh dear, it's actually a 9.75% tax for those guys, as opposed to the 14.25% that Kalshi and Polymarket would end up having to pay. So they're like, it's not fair because it privileges in-state, providers of these gambling services. I'm sure they don't use that exact term, but that's what I call it. Okay, well, there's all kinds of reasons we can go into how that's craven. But the interesting thing is today, our Attorney General, Russell Coleman, said that the state is going to sue them in turn, in that they're, quote, operating illegal sports books in Kentucky and breaking our laws. He also says that they don't provide resources to help problem gamblers, unlike other online sports bettors are supposed to do in the state of Kentucky. And it's it's sort of like, who are you going to believe? Well, okay, so I'll get my cards out on the table. I'm not into gambling. I would not be sad if it all went away, but I know that I'm in the minority and that a great number of Kentuckians love gambling and do it responsibly and have a good time and all that kind of stuff. So far be it for me to take away that joy. But what I do want to point out is that Russell Coleman is so often, usually, let's say 90-95% of the time on the wrong side of what progressives like us are for. All right. So he's not progressive in the slightest, and indeed supports a lot of Trump initiatives. But this is one of the couple of times where the guy is actually like, you know what? You go, boy. You sue them. You get some redress in court and get made whole, or whatever it is these people talk about. Interestingly, not that long ago, he did another actually great suit when he sued Character.ai for basically, what was it? Endangering children and violating state consumer and data protection laws. And apparently it was the first regulatory lawsuit that had been brought against one of these AI companies by a state. And actually, I remember calling up the office. I used to call them quite frequently. I might still do it again. But I usually am haranguing them. But this is like one of the times I'm like, you know what? Yes, that's awesome. And there's other AI companies that you also maybe could throw into that suit because they're endangering kids and people with mental health conditions and this, that, and the other. So Russell Coleman actually doing, I think, Kentucky is solid with this lawsuit, and we'll keep updating the story as we get more. But at least for right now, hats off to General Coleman.
Pretty interesting. I think good to see folks, leading on the prediction market stuff, because again, it's not regulated at all. It needs to be, reined in. It's the most just set up for insider influence. You're making money off of what betting on things that one person can know and influence just seems insane. And to say that it's not betting, it's like,
please.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so I'm glad to see him do it. Likewise, shocked and amazed, pleasantly surprised, I guess, to see. We call him General, like he's the Attorney General. You call him General?
I think so. That's what. He has a really great support person on the staff who I used to talk to, and she says, "Yeah, that's what we call him, General Coleman." So,
well. I'm not following the battle, but I'm glad to see him on this one.
This is a good
narrow area.
This is not a hill I'd die on, but I wouldn't mind getting wounded on it if need be.
Anyway, I'm gonna watch him. But yeah, we'll bring it up. All right. So next story. This is an important one for a lot of reasons. But as I mentioned, Friday is Juneteenth. So it's this is the day that slaves in I think Galveston, Texas, some of the last enslaved people to learn that they had been freed due to the Civil War. So ahead of Juneteenth, Governor Beshear took executive action to posthumously pardon 43 wrongfully imprisoned individuals who helped enslaved people escape to freedom. He also proclaimed Friday as Juneteenth National Freedom Day in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Of course, his power is very constrained by the legislature, so it's just an executive holiday. So, but thankfully, and I don't really know what happened here, but it's still a federal holiday. So I don't know if Trump has not noticed or just his people. It's one of those things. You give somebody a federal holiday, there's like no way you're taking it back, right? So it is shocking to me, but good quote from the governor saying when we have a chance to correct a historical wrong, we should do it. That's why he's posthumously pardoning these 43 brave Kentuckians who were wrongfully imprisoned for helping enslaved people escape to freedom. In Kentucky, these leaders are heroes, not criminals. They and their families deserve the justice of having their names cleared, obviously, for sure. But yeah, these are folks who are, of course, long since passed. But the stories are, just kind of, it's a good moment to reflect, right? So Elijah Anderson was a free black man, one of the most active underground railroad conductors in Kentucky. According to research and records, he helped about 1,000 people reach freedom. He was arrested in Louisville for his efforts and later died in the Kentucky State Penitentiary. Juliet Miles was a black woman who was freed by Reverend John Fee, and she moved north. After learning her children were going to be sold, she traveled across the Ohio River to free them. She was arrested and put in prison, where she later died. Thomas Brown, an Irish immigrant who was arrested at the age of 60 and imprisoned, suffered severe beatings for 2 years before being released. And then when the governor signed the executive order, I don't know if you pulled up the picture or not, but he was with Reverend Andrew Baskin, who's a professor, former associate professor of African and African American Studies at Berea, and then James Pritchard, a historian, author, and former member of the Filson Historical Society staff. So really some great history brought to bear here, and really appreciate the governor for kind of leaning in and providing an important counterweight to the just very clear political power grab that's happening right now. We talked about it every week since it happened. I don't think anyone should lose sight of the outrage that is the Supreme Court ruling that allowed for the GOP to move with incredible speed to take away black political power throughout the South. And this is, a nice response to that, I think. So I don't know, Nate, any thoughts about it?
No, I mean, ditto. Long overdue, and I understand that there's a certain degree to which it's performative, but it's the right kind of performative if that's the case. We need people kind of setting a good example and reminding people of some of the evil things that have gone on in the past, especially about sort of the carceral state and the relationship between that and slavery and discrimination, and it goes on and on and on. Kit and I were recently in Birmingham, at Montgomery, at the Legacy Center, and an amazing museum and complex, and everybody should go if they get a chance. It's like a progressive pilgrimage. But one of the things they make clear is that there's like this completely smooth transition from slavery to Reconstruction and Jim Crow to the carceral to civil rights, but a carceral state throughout. And that's the big thing. And so jails and keeping Black people in prison, much more so than white folks. It's just an ongoing kind of white supremacist industry. So anything that we can do to call that kind of stuff out and maybe redress it just ever so slightly, even symbolically, I'm for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we were at the Lyric Theater on Sunday. We organized a showing of the live stream Rise Up, Sing Out for the No Kings movement. And this was, of course, a celebration of the First Amendment. Folks like Jane Fonda and Bette Midler and, a lot of old folks. But it was a fun event and it was, good programming. I think people came out and had a good time. But being at the Lyric, right, which, of course, is, part of the Chitlin circuit. So, was where, Black performers could perform.
Right.
Really awesome to be there for that location, for that event. And, really goes to show racism was very significant structural racism. One of the groups that was tabling with us, we had a group that was tabling and fighting the data centers. So Erin Petrie's new organization, we're going to have her on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about that fight. But then the other one was the coalition fighting against slavery, right? Because to abolish slavery, because in fact, Kentucky didn't abolish slavery. And there is, in fact, because of that, it is legal to have these kind of forced work situations with those who have been, as you mentioned, that carceral system, which is a money-making system for a lot of sheriffs, a lot of state agencies as well. So, really important that we continue to push against this wherever it shows up, and it's not, not gone, still there. All right. Speaking of, so this is an important one. The GOP, I mean, they're just all in on race baiting. It wasn't that long ago. Think back to the horrible ads that Bootlicker Bar was running against DEI, against all the things, showing that it wasn't against the law to be a white Christian, like just horrible ads. And what I think we shouldn't at all lose sight of is that he's not alone. And our friend Barry Craig has been on the show. He's over at Forward Kentucky, not going easy on two GOP leaders in that boot licking and race baiting, Jamie Comer and Garland Hale Bar IV, aka Bootlicker Bar, right? So we really good column. We'll put it in there, and you should take a look at it. But he points out that Barr's ads, that Comer as well, are pandering to white grievance politics. They're aimed, Comer recently aimed a racist rant at Representative Chantel Brown, who's a Cleveland area Democrat. Comer evidently calculated that bashing a big city Black woman would fire up the down-home MAGA white folks in his first district. Barry goes on to quote Comer about, welfare and welfare for her people, and my people are sick and tired of paying for welfare for able-bodied people. Just using the whole like so tired trope, kind of racist welfare queen garbage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and what I thought was interesting was that his opponent that this Congresswoman Chantel Brown definitely fired back. Didn't take kindly. Told him very clearly, stop with the racist comments about my people and keep my name out of your mouth. So appreciate that. Drew Williams, who's running against Comer, kind of that long shot bid to try to take him out, jumped in it as well, and made his case strongly about how Comer's clearly just doing this to divide people, and isn't about delivering anything for his district, but is just looking to play to those tropes. So really good piece. We'll put it in the show notes, and it's in the chat right now if you want to take a look at it. Of course, we are proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Appreciate what they're doing over there, and Barry Craig's a consistent contributor to Forward Kentucky, so check him out. He's over in, I think he's Paducah, maybe Murray, I don't know, somewhere in eastern Kentucky. Good stuff. He's been on the show before, and I think quotes one of our frequent co-hosts in here as well.
He might be a Kernels of Truth Hall of Famer.
He could be. I actually think he's only been on a couple of times, so we're gonna need to keep working with him. I think
we got to bring him back home.
Yeah, bring him in the Hall of Fame. And that's a good point. In the comments, Chris Couch noted that Comer's just auditioning for Trump's endorsement for Kentucky governor. That's clearly what he's setting himself up to run for, is governor in 2027. All right, so let's see what else we got to cover in our news. I think we got a couple of shorts we want to do, a couple of quick hits before we get to our guest soon. We've been talking about Matt Bevin, because he is the political jelly of the month club. That guy just keeps on giving. And new this week is an email from Bevin's attorney, which accused his estranged son of just trying to shake his parents down for money, and doesn't change the fact that he is supposed to be in jail. He has not been served, apparently. He's been hiding out in Maine, and I guess the judge has not sent the process server to Maine to run him down. But again, there was a large boulder that fell into his vacation home. But we know he's got the money to fix it. Why do we know? Because he hasn't paid taxes for 4 years. So we know the guy's got some resources to fix his vacation home up in Maine. But still that Bevin jail watch, not in jail yet. All right. How about you, Nate? You got a quick hit for us?
Oh, yeah. Well, first I have to turn off this comment. I can't multitask because I've told you many times. So this one's just about Mitch McConnell. So, when we talk about stuff like the Biden list, and I'm sure Mitch has been on it before, we don't really wish them physical ill. We've
covered that. We said that. It's clear. No one wants to bite anyone.
Yeah.
No one wants anyone to get rabies.
He's in the hospital. In case you hadn't heard, he took ill. They're not telling us what it is, but of course anybody who's paid half a moment's attention to him in the past year knows all these famous kind of moments where he'll be talking publicly and he'll just kind of freeze up, which looks very funny, but it means that something bad is probably happening inside, and maybe this is related to it. But so the news is that they're saying, you know what, he's actually fully engaged. So even though he's in his hospital bed, he's doing senatorly stuff. So that means keep calling his office. I do almost every day. Ask for things like speaking out against the president's insane war in Iran and so on and so forth. But keep calling, kids, because you know what? They say he's up and working, so make him work.
They do not say. I've heard varying reports whether he's in Kentucky in a hospital or DC in a hospital. They won't say why he's in the hospital or where he is.
Right.
But still alert, still doing his work. Sure. I was in his office not that long ago, and it did smell like an old folks home. It definitely had a bit of that hint of needs to be aired out. Fun times with Mitch McConnell. All right, so most importantly, still alive. You can still call his office. Do you get through every time I try to call his office? It's like it goes to voicemail and you can't even leave a message. It's
so here you go. Here's some of the pro tips.
Pro tips of calling.
Don't call DC. So if you call Lexington, you can at least leave a message. But sometimes if you call, he has offices in Bowling Green and Louisville. They have numbers. You'll sometimes get a staffer because, as you might imagine, in a place like Bowling Green, they don't a little slower, a little sleepier than some of these other spots, which is great for you because then you can get through and at least know that you talk to an intern. And hopefully they don't just rip up your thing. Yes, I'll make sure. Rip. Then I get it to the senator. Rip. As soon as I can. Rip.
All right, call local.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe you can leave a message. Maybe an actual human will pick up. All right. Thank you for those tips. It's important to have engagement in your democratic process. They are, in fact, our senators and our representatives. Even if we don't agree with them, you need to get your voice heard. So at any rate, all right. So really exciting now. We are thrilled to be joined by Alisha Chaffin, who is. I am very excited about Alisha because I live in the 88th district. Which state house district, I would argue one of the most competitive in our Commonwealth, and it was the one that Sherilyn Stevenson had flipped, and then they redrew it, and then she held on to it, and she held on to it, then they redrew it, and then she lost by a narrow number of votes in that Trump election. So this is one that I think a lot of people had on their watch list. I personally was very much hoping that I would not have to be represented by Vanessa Grossel any further. But there's been issues, so we are excited to just get the truth of what's going on in the 88th district. Who is this Alisha Chaffin? What do we need to do to help get her on the ballot? I don't know. Hey, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. How are you doing this evening? I think you are muted.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Sorry about that. Hey, how are you?
Hey. Doing great. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you so much for running. Appreciate everyone who throws their hat into the ring, because I know that it's not easy to put your life on hold, to put yourself out there. And we'd love to just hear a little bit about you and why you did decide to throw your hat in the ring.
It's not easy. And those who tell you it is are lying. So my grandfather grew up in Louisa, and my dad and my uncles grew up in Calixburg. So when I was little, my grandfather was always involved in politics. He was always taking me to women's Democratic meetings of Boyd County, of Calixburg, of Ashland. And he actually had me knock door to door for Rocky Atkins's very first election for the state house. So politics has always been in my blood, right? And I think that his dream was what has happened, or what would have happened, for me to be home in Kentucky and run. And then unfortunately, I broke his heart and moved to the north when I was 19. I had quite an interesting childhood, somewhat horrific, and decided at 19 that I was tired of everybody knowing who I was. So I left, and during COVID, I needed to be home, and I came home and I just couldn't go back. And so in the time that I've spent during COVID, it was time. I could feel it. I wanted to get into politics. I started attending meetings immediately in Fayette County. I started attending women's meetings. I would even go back to Boyd County and Catlettsburg and attend their meetings. Started talking to Rocky about it and a few other people that I knew, and just knew that it was my time. It was my turn. It was my time. And I really was excited to make my grandfather excited as he was looking down from heaven. So here we are. Something you guys don't know, as of yesterday at 3:30, my appeal was denied. So I am not a candidate. We had considered taking it to the Supreme Court. I'm still talking with my attorney, Hannah Whites, but as of yesterday at 2 or 3:30, somewhere along there, we received the documentations that said my appeal had been denied.
All right. So in case people are not familiar with the situation, because, I think our audience more likely than not to know a bit about it, but, it hasn't gotten a ton of attention because, it's a state house race. But yeah, what's the story? So you said you're not a candidate now because you lost your appeal, but what were you appealing? What happened?
Okay, so what happened is I had two brilliant, beautiful women sign my documentation. You have to have two people in your district sign to say they are a Democrat and that they can vote for you in the election. And unfortunately, one of them was an other and not a Democrat. And there were no guardrails. And, look, unfortunately, I hate to say that I'm to blame, but I am at the end of the day, right? It's my fault at the end of the day. I know that the party is going to put more guardrails up because of it. And I'm happy to speak out on that, on other candidates' benefits. I just feel like we need to be, I'm a first time candidate, all I knew is that I needed to get two Democrats in my district to sign this paperwork, right? And I did what I was supposed to do. And unfortunately, I turned it in. Everybody saw the pictures. I was with the lieutenant governor. It was a great day. I couldn't have been happier or more proud of myself. And to find out, end of January-ish, that there was a problem with my paperwork.
Mm-hmm. End of January. So you found out at the end of January that one of your two signatures was not from someone who was registered as a Democrat.
So what happened is there were a total of 6 of us. And don't quote me on these numbers because it's been a bit, but I feel like there was a total of 6 of us. 5 were from Louisville, me from Lexington. And someone came onto the floor and said, these 6 people are not going to be able to run. We're suing them. And my name was one of them. So I immediately had people in the House and the Senate texting me, oh my gosh, send me your paperwork. We hear something's wrong with your paperwork. Send it immediately. Everyone else was sued immediately. I was just sued, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, max. So they really waited until the last minute to sue me. And we're not quite sure why, because we've been waiting for the other foot to drop to be able to fight it. So we really were hopeful and, really did a lot of work. And, Anna, she's such a wonderful attorney and she's such a good friend that, I'm just thankful to have had her on my side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it does seem, I don't know, it seems to me as a voter in the 88th district, right? Like it's horrible for you that you don't get to pursue this campaign that you had planned, and fundraised. And I went to your launch party. You had, friendship bracelets. It was a great event. And it seemed like, I personally will say, having heard you on my old Kentucky podcast, between you announcing and this news, you sounded like you had a great campaign and a great reason for running and a great story to be sharing with potential voters. I just feel like it sucks for you, but it really sucks for me, because I am a voter in the 88th, and now what are my options, right? So I am one of those fools who pays for Lexington Herald Leader, and I opened up my paper, and there was old school paper. There was Vanessa Grossel talking about how important it was that lawmakers follow the rules, and the rules are really important, and that's why we got to follow the rules. But a lot more words. But it kind of, that's like the only argument she had, right? But no one's like talking about like, yeah, but what about the voters, right? The voters deserve to have options. And we can find you 500, Democrats to sign your paperwork right now, right? That's not hard. Right. The fact that there were 2, and one of them, didn't understand what they were registered as, which I think a lot of people, in the primary kind of showed up and figured out, like, oh, I guess I'm not a Democrat, or I guess I'm an independent because I don't get to vote on very many things right now, right? So it just seems outrageous that the rules are such that couldn't be cured, and that at the end of the day, about half, almost exactly half of the voters in this district are kind of left without recourse, or left without an option. It just seems astounding to me.
I agree. And I was asked that question by KYT TV, and it's awful. It's awful that they don't get a choice. It's awful that because of a mistake, they don't get a choice. I'm not saying I don't want election integrity. Of course I want election integrity. And I'm not saying I wanted to read her article and be schooled. Yeah, I'm a novice public servant. I am not a politician. And I didn't, her article was quite interesting. And unfortunately, as a candidate, you're only given one chance to write an op-ed. But I have some words for her too, but that's neither here nor there. And it's awful. It's awful that 88 doesn't get a choice. I know that some people have reached out to me about being a write-in. I've had other groups who are quite large in Kentucky that have said, we'd be willing to get behind you and help you run a write-in campaign. I don't know what that looks like. I'm willing to sit down with them and talk about it. And that's just that's the only thing I can offer other than change the rules moving forward. And I think anyone should be able to sign your paperwork because quite frankly, if a Republican from District 88 signs my paperwork, doesn't that say a lot? That says to me that this person is willing to work across the table. She's willing to make things work on all sides. And so much so that a Republican signed her paperwork or an independent signed her paperwork and a Democrat, regardless of what your background is. Shouldn't you be allowed to sign a candidate's paperwork if you live in their district? So I think that's something we need to work on.
It seems like a weird rule, right? Oh, you have to have two people from the party need to sign for you. Okay, well, that just seems like a good chance for somebody to screw something up. Make it 100 and make sure 100 voters have to show that you care, that you're a legitimate candidate and that they would support you in in an election. That way, it's and then you get 120 and even if 20 don't know where they live, they're you're fine. But it's super arbitrary. And again, I just feel like I'm sorry for you, but I'm really sorry for me and other voters like me who, wanted to have our, something closer to our views represented in Frankfurt. Because, that's not something that Vanessa Grossel touched on in her op-ed, the fact that, she votes for, a party that I think is horrendous and doesn't acknowledge the importance of data centers and doesn't acknowledge the importance of climate change and doesn't, acknowledge that women should have a right to choose, right? So this horrible, horrible party, we have no choice. I'm hearing that maybe there's somebody, an independent that's more conservative than her is going to be an option.
That too.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe that means a write-in isn't completely a waste of time. I don't know.
Well, it is a thought. I'm definitely interested in hearing what you and the viewers think about that because a few different groups have come to me and said, look, we'd love to help you win this. We'd love to take this across the line. This might be the only option. Let's do it. So, I'm just trying to do what's right and what's best. I always want to be on the right side of history. It is unfair that you don't have someone to vote for, regardless if it's me or not.
Yeah, and Chris is making an interesting point in the comments as well. The filing fees, you have to pay them again if you get, if you fix it, if the error is caught in time. I don't know what's the filing fee. How much does it cost to file to run for State House?
It's either $200 or $250. I would have happily paid those fees. But I can tell you at this point, I would happily pay those fees.
Yes. I'll also say this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but seems like the only people checking the paperwork are the Republicans. Yes, Jason Neiman's checks all the Republicans' paperwork before they file and checks all the Democrats' paperwork after they file.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's another thing that the party is going to fix as well moving forward. This is obviously a stunner for all of us. The party, I went through Emerge, I'm sure Emerge was like, what the hell, but I'm a novice, I did exactly what I was told to do. And here we are.
And, and then somebody who was not a novice, Nima Kulkarni, ran into the same problem, right? Different outcome because of, different circumstances, but same issue,
Yeah.
right? Like got tagged because didn't have, one of the people that signed wasn't a Democrat or whatever, right? So it does seem like, well, we there's a history here. This seems to be catching people up. Let's figure out how to fix it.
Let's fix it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There needs to be multiple guardrails. There needs to be guardrails at the city level. That means Scott County and Fayette County. There needs to be guardrails where the caucus is looking, as well as the House, anyone on the House floor. A lot of what I heard during all of this happening, which was, as you're devastated, I was a mess, was if she had just come to me. And that hurt and bothered me more than anything. Like, you're the professional politician. I'm the novice. Please stop saying that. Like, yes, I should have come to you. I didn't. Here we are. Let's either fix it or do something different.
Yeah.
And I think that there's been a lot of pointing fingers, and the pointing fingers has done nothing but harm me. It's harmed my relationships with people. It's harmed my heart. It's harmed my, mental health. Like, there's been a lot of harm done by just pointing fingers and not saying, hey, Alisha, are you okay? What do we do from here? And can we use you as an example? Because I would say absolutely. Please use me as an example. Like, put a face to it. Because when you talk about it in a classroom, you're just like, kind of like, well, I'll think about that when I get to it, right? I'm just learning stuff. But when you have a face to it, a face that was in one of almost, if not the most competitive district in Kentucky, and she's the one that messes up, like, I think we got to sit down and figure out what we can do to help other candidates. They need help.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if your race is one that this wasn't caught in, I'm sure, lots and lots of other races, right, don't get near the attention, right? Because, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, people get mad because there aren't Democrats running in every district, right? People are like, oh, we have to show up and fight in every district. I'm like, well, yeah, sure. But it's really hard to recruit for a suicide mission. And there's a lot of districts where, like, Democrats just don't have a shot right now, current political landscape. But this one,
like, upwards of 30 counties.
What's that?
Upwards of 30 counties didn't even have a Democrat for the same reason.
Amazing.
Suicide, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. But, like, if the party's not going to, like, help make sure that new, first-time candidates get their paperwork filed, accurately, like what support are they giving them anyway? So, it's always easy to beat up on the Kentucky Democratic Party.
No, and I want to be clear about it. I had Emerge. I went through 6 months of Emerge. I heard it, but again, I'm just learning about politics, right? And then KDP does put you through a program. So yeah, you hear it and it's a sentence on a piece of paper, but I had the most amazing kickoff party. You were there. I mean, there were so many attendees there. We did the paperwork there. I was so excited that the last thing I was thinking of was, oh my gosh, we should probably, these are women I know, right?
Yeah. And they said, I'm a Democrat. Of course I'm a Democrat. I'll sign your paperwork, and it does seem like, there should be a checklist. There should be like a process. But the reality of it is, like, there should also be a curing process as well, right? Just like when, mail-in ballots, oh, we don't think this signature like matches, like, the voter can like actually say, no, look, this is my signature. They can kind of take another whack at it, right? So I do think the ability to fix these problems, if they are caught, then they should be able to be fixed. And it doesn't seem, again, arbitrary rule that leaves voters holding the bag, and have you putting a lot of yourself and energy and your time and your resources into a campaign that unfortunately is abortive at this point, right? So just really a lot of just disappointing all the way around, And I'm so sorry that you're going through this, because I know that you had much grander thoughts about getting in this race and why to do it, and so appreciate you.
I am devastated. I was looking forward to it. Looking forward to just making a difference. I don't consider myself a politician. I'm a public servant, and I do feel like politicians have forgotten that they're public servants. So I really wanted to bring that feeling back and be like, no, actually, we do work for other people. We're here for them. I'm here for the red, the blue, the purple, the white. I'm here for everybody. Like, that's my job. My job isn't to just go to Frankfurt and say, well, the Democrats want this. Well, of course, that's where my heart is, but also my job is for everyone. And I think politicians, like my opponent, forgets that when she goes to Frankfurt. She isn't fighting for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that it won't be a kind of giving voters that kind of clear and easy choice, because I do think, in this political landscape, things, would have been a tight race for sure, but I liked your odds. And, disappointing.
Numbers are pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, Nate, any questions for Alisha? Any final thoughts you want to offer?
Well, and of course, my heart goes out to you and to all your supporters who are just feeling like, there is no joy in Mudville. Muddy Casey struck out. How do you feel about open primaries? Would a situation like that, have been advantageous? I mean, I know this is kind of like pie in the sky talking, but you in a sense are a result of primaries not being open and the parties being what they are. So.
I actually am for them. I think that's another thing we should be working towards as Kentucky constituents and talking to people who are in office. I think it should be an open primary. Everybody should be able to vote, especially if come November we have an independent. So why can't the independents vote in the primary? And I think it all goes back to who's signing your paperwork. Anybody should be able to sign your paperwork. Just like if you're registered to vote, you should be able to vote in the primary.
Yeah. It's always so interesting to me, right? So if you want to change your voter registration, you have to do it, so far ahead of the election, right? But, you can register to vote up to like a month before the election, right? So wait, why is it taking so much longer to identify or fix your party identification, right? So and I think it's more towards gatekeeping than it is towards an open democratic process, welcoming more people in. Chris, right. We made that point before, like the fastest growing segment of voters right now are independents, right? And I don't know a story of a successful write-in candidate. I will say this, it's really important that, people have options. I think in a race where you've got a moderate Republican that the party doesn't like very much versus with a more conservative independent that's on the ballot, that's, I think, the only case where I could see like a write-in maybe actually having a shot. But it certainly is something that, it's hard to do, to write in a candidate. You've got to request the ballot to be able to do it, right? So it's not an easy process. But certainly not impossible. I know Randy Cravens was a write-in a couple years ago, and he certainly didn't win, but he got a ton of votes. I mean, compared to I don't know that he beat Jeff Young, but he did definitely. He got a substantial number of votes because people knew I'm not voting for Jeff Young, even though he's the right. It's certainly, I would say, a long shot bid, right, to be able to do that. But like a bunch of the races in Kentucky are long shots right now. So welcome to the party. I don't know.
Right. If we were in Georgia, I think it would be a different situation. Kentucky's not used to writing in, so I'm not sure that would bode well. It would be. I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm just saying it would be exhausting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, any other thoughts you want to leave our viewers with? Again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, your kind of cautionary tale, like what learnings we can, take away from this, and just putting yourself out there, which we do appreciate.
I would say to candidates who might be listening, call me, text me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm here. I'd love to help. I'd love to be a part of the party in some way, shape, or form. Just, my heart and my mind are hurt so badly right now and devastated that I can't do this for my constituents. That at the very least, I want to be there for a candidate or even for a constituent that would have been mine. Reach out.
Well, that's awesome. I love that open door. And I'll just say one thing on the whole write-in, concept. I think, and you have a great track record of service, so active in so many like non-political community groups. I guess this allows you to stay active and involved with them if that's a choice you want to make. But I also know that, running as a write-in, sure, your chances of winning are very low, but it's kind of like, you get to keep campaigning. I've seen some comments in our chat about like, 2028's an option then, and it's like, might as well start campaigning now for 2028. What's the downside? So you're probably not going to win the write-in, but you're going to get out there and meet a lot more people and, build momentum. Andy Barr, Garland Hale, Bootlicker Barr the Fourth, did not win the first time he ran, right? But he just kept running. And so he won the next time. And I think that there's some, I won't say wisdom, but it's a model to follow. And there's a side of me is like, why doesn't Amy McGrath just keep running for the 6th district till she wins? She came really close.
Yeah.
Meet more people, build more awareness, and win some people over. And I think you got a winning personality, Alisha. I don't think people, just should see you for 6 months and make up their mind. I think if they saw you for 2 years and 6 months, they'd be like even more likely to show up for you.
Well, I'm out in community. I am community chair for Rotary. I am a little sister who's now a big sister. I'm on the board for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. That program means a lot to me. I do lots of things in the community. Today, we're talking about handing the community outreach and Rotary off to 2 other people for the coming year. And they're like, so what are you going to do for community service? And I go, I do community service every day. I think we're good. And they're like, oh, no, you do, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Well, thanks so much for what you do for the community. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us here on Kernels of Truth. Thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So glad to have you. All right. So really thrilled to hear Alisha's story. It is like, it's a heartbreaker, right? Like, let's not sugarcoat it. This just is a bummer, a big bummer. And again, I'm super biased because as an 88th voter, I want options. But I don't know, Nate. I appreciate her like candor, and I appreciate her like willing to just tell the story personally. And
I think it is, some good will come from this, because I think this is the kind of thing that won't happen again. Like she says, there will be guardrails. It will also be top of mind, like, oh wow, remember when, that kind of thing. So I think, and Alisha's not gone. She's still going to be around and active. So I think we have not seen the last of her.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, so we've got one final thing to do. A couple things to do. One, I don't know. Hey, Nate, did you know that Friday is Juneteenth? Were you aware?
I was aware. I love Juneteenth. It's one of my favorite holidays.
Nice. And so the day after Juneteenth, on the 20th, on Saturday, this is a really cool event. It's going to be at Gatton Park, honoring RCO Benjamin, who was, I think, the first Black man barred in California. I say bar, I mean, joining the bar. So an attorney. He was an advocate for Black voting. Really an incredibly impressive individual. We've got links to a wonderful op-ed that Russell Allen and DeBron Thomas wrote. So Russell's been on the show a couple times. He's with the Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. And they wrote this fantastic piece just detailing the history of RCO Benjamin. He was unfortunately murdered in Lexington for his work advocating for Black voting rights. And now he's going to be honored at Gatton Park, 4:00 at Gatton Park with that memorial marker going up. So join folks if you'd like to come on out, support that type of important history and learn more and honor this just really important voice for Black political power in Kentucky. So I think I'm gonna go out. So also it's a really cool park, cool new park.
I just saw it for the first time on Saturday. I did some tabling for New Americans Initiative at the 5th annual Swahili Day. And it was just, the energy was great. The food was great. Pro tip, you get if you get some fried plantains and some beans, which have nice sauce in them, you dip the plantains in the beans and it just tastes amazing.
Fantastic.
And also met a lot of really cool Lexingtonians and New Americans and all that. So it was
your shirt's given that vibe too as well. I like the shirt.
It is, isn't it? Oh, and this is just because it was Hawaiian shirt day at work, and this is the closest thing I have. But yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
Unintentional, but I don't mind.
Well, hey, would you mind terribly closing us out?
Would I? All right, folks. Well, hey, thanks so much for sticking around this long. What's wrong with you? Don't you have a real life? And I'm here to tell you that Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, with the Common Ground Kentucky Action, and also proud members of Forward Kentucky Network. Go, Bruce. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, yes, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. We will be back next week, joined by state and local labor leaders. Yes, Dustin Reinstedler from AFL-CIO and Amy Beasley, the president of the Bluegrass Central Labor Council. Yes, production of this episode 263 was by me, Nate Orshan. And I also wrote and performed our theme song, When Do I Find the Time? You can find more information about my music at my website, which is natosongs.com, natosongs.com. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcast and our show notes are available where? They're available on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. And thanks for joining Kernels of Truth.